Celebrity endorsement is another tactic used for PR. Here you can see a photo of Russell Crowe at a rugby stadium. Now he's part owner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs National Rugby League franchise. And he was invited to an event before the game to hand out 100 free tickets to a home game in a Sydney suburb. Obviously, media representatives were also invited to the same event, and this created a lot of vibe and a lot of publicity for the actual event, the actual game, and for the club as well. It is important that when we're thinking about celebrity endorsement as a tactic for PR, that we take into account why a certain celebrity is being used for an event. There has to be obviously a fit between the event and the celebrity. Now, celebrities' source of credibility could be their sincerity and whether or not they come across as believing what they are endorsing and what they're saying about the brand. It could be their charisma and whether or not they are self-assured and articulate when talking about the brand. So these are all the advantages of using a celebrity endorsement, but there's also drawbacks, and some of the negative aspects of using celebrity endorsement as a PR tool is that sometimes the endorser's actions can weaken the product or the event in our case. So cyclists like Lance Armstrong or golf player Tiger Woods were both dropped by their sponsors because of the negative actions that they had done and how it was associated with negative publicity. So events which use them as celebrities to endorse the event had to stop using them the following years. A more recent example is Jeremy Clarkson, who is an English broadcaster, and he was co-presenting the BBC TV show Top Gear. And after a dispute, a verbal and physical dispute that he had with the producer of the program, it was decided that he should not continue as a presenter of the show. It is also important to consider a crisis management plan, and crisis management should be an important part of any public relation planning at an event. So plans, when we're thinking about public relation plans, they need to, all these events need to be prepared for a contingency measure to minimize the impact of any unfavorable press, or they have to be prepared to respond to any unforeseen operational issues. There could be major incidents at the event, there could be accidents, there could be other crises, and the event as part of its PR plan should be prepared and should have thought through a crisis management plan. As we know, at an event many things could go wrong, and media are just ready to report on dramatic, tragic and any controversial stories that happen at an event. So an example is the Tamworth Music Festival. This country music festival, obviously, when the original founding musicians of the event challenged the organizers of the event, who had decided to include rock and pop performances in the festival to widen the audience demographic. This was challenged, and it drew a lot of attention by the media and a lot of negative publicity for the festival. Another example is the Royal Adelaide show. A few years ago, unfortunately, there was a tragic death of a young girl at one of the rides of the show, which again drew a lot of negative publicity for the event. And what the event did was that it immediately sent out media statements to combat the negative impact of the incident. Finally, the role of staff are very important in delivering a good PR. Basically, staff and volunteers specifically are considered as brand ambassadors, and they could be they have a very important role in maintaining a good PR for the event. Moving on to the next element of IMC, sales promotion. So basically, sales promotion is all the incentives, all the discounts that are used by the event in order to increase ticket sales and attendance at the event. Examples are, for example, free tickets. An event could consider and could consider free tickets for one child. They could allow group discounts. They could have family days at the exhibition where there's discounts and special rates for families. Free merchandise, for example, a t-shirt, a poster, could be handed out if tickets are purchased. All of these are examples of sales promotion. Nix for Next to Nix program at Sydney Festival is a program which releases a limited number of tickets. Obviously, this limited number depends on how popular the particular show is. But they release a certain number or limited number of tickets at a booth in the city on the day of the performance for only $25, which is a sizable discount. And it has the advantage of clearing unsold tickets and avoiding the problem of perishability, which we have previously discussed as one of the characteristics of events. Another example is the Royal Easter Show. It offers vacation care program where children and on school holidays are specifically entertained. The next element of IMC is direct marketing, and that's a one-on-one communication through postal, mail, telephone, or email. Now here, obviously the information can be obtained about previous event attendees, and that could be used to have a one-on-one communication with them. And there's also some events like the Woodford Folk Festival here, where they have a contact us section on their website, and you can go there and you can fill in your details and you can contact them, and this will be saved in their database and they will have access to that information later on as well. Elements of IMC, the next one is personal selling. And here there's a direct face-to-face communication between a seller and a potential consumer. So this is more common for booking conferences, for weddings, parties, and incentive travel events. It's not necessarily very much relevant to bigger events, unless we're talking about B2B events where personal selling can happen between the event and an organization in order to attract them to the event. Okay, now finally we have a case study here, a very brief one. I'm going to go through the case study which discusses the effectiveness of public relations if used skillfully. So as we all know, the Sydney Royal Easter Show is a major event in Sydney. It attracts hundreds of thousands of Sydney residents and visitors during the 2 weeks that is run. During 1950s and 1960s, Sideshow Alley was a prominent feature of this event, and it was a must-see for many show visitors. It contained tents with various acts of different styles. Now, in the 1970s, during 1970s, this was replaced. So this type of show and this type of entertainment fell out of favor, and it was replaced with new rides and thrill rides, mainly for teenagers, and they were usually imported from the US. However, in 2007, the Royal Easter Show decided to bring back the sideshow. So it rebranded it, and it was branded as the Psycho Sideshow of Anarchy. And it featured acts such as a sword-swallowing space cowboy or the meter-tall belly dancer Teen Arena. So these were some of the famous shows or acts that were shown. It was an innovative act, and it was publicized through the media releases. Now, these media releases also resulted in the event being featured in the Sydney Morning Herald, as you can see here on the slide. So there were 3 pages. There was a feature of the event and the story and the new acts in the Sydney Morning Herald on page 3 of the newspaper, and there were colour photos of the acts and useful information for visitors. And the reason the event got this publicity is obviously because the story was new, and it was of interest to the readers and listeners and viewers, and that's why Sydney Morning Herald, as a major media, paid attention to this and allocated a full page to this news. Okay, this brings us to the end of week 7 lecture on promotion. Next week we will be covering online promotion, and we will also have a guest speaker, so please ensure that you do your best to be there. At the tutorial we'll have 2 different panel discussions. The first one will be on sponsorship, and this is as a result of last week's class being cancelled, and this will be followed by the second panel discussion on promotion. I hope you enjoy the rest of your break, and I'll see you next week in class. Thank you.